with your presentation.
It's being recorded.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Dr. Lambert, and good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Rhoda. I'm from Mozambique, as Dr. Franklin said. I'm going to share with you one of my work that I think it is part of my exponential growth. I did cook this idea of helping a specific community in the south of Mozambique, which is lack of water resources. Dr. Franklin, may I share my screen? Yes, I'm there. Thank you very much. So my parents are from Gaza province, and I used to go there and visit many places, and I love to be there. It's a very beautiful place. But in some areas of Gaza province, it is very drought. There is no water, literally no water. So I had an idea, and I talked with 3 of my friends, which works in the area of water, what we could do to help that people. So we did a feasibility study to find out a low-cost desalination technology for the kind of boreholes and wells that they have there. I can move. Yes, so my presentation will have those topics. I will not go through all of them to save the time, but I will mention that we work under UN Goal 6, which is clean and water sanitation. And I will also present a little bit of Mozambique climate to see this condition, which is in south of Mozambique, the Mozambique water vulnerability, and then I will just touch in all these topics a little bit. I won't go so deep to save the time. As I said, because I'm working in a water research institute, I'm user to these topics of clean water and sanitation, and I took that subjects to do this work within the community. And first of all, we look what's happened globally. Globally, we do have the same problems that we have in Mozambique, water scarcity. And globally, according to our research, we see that 40% of people, they have a lack of water. So this is our first kickoff. We knew that we didn't have water in Mozambique, but knowing that the problem is global, so we move forward. I want to present the vision and mission of my institution. I think all my fellow can then look at this and in the future. I will say a little bit about water supply coverage rate in Mozambique. For all countries, the total population is around 30 million, and we just have 54.6% of water supply coverage. And this is really covering the costs of the country. If you go to the in places such as Tete, Manica, and those provinces, the rate is very low. And Mozambique climate has, everyone knows, we are a tropical country, 2 seasons. But our main problems, our main constraints appears when we have the wet season. Rainfall is heavy along the coast and decreases from north to south. So normally from central region to north, we have floods every year. We have along all country from north to south, cyclones, very common. We just had one, we hit Mozambique, the only one. This year we're facing the third cyclone. So we had three along the provinces in the coastal area. Water resources. As I mentioned before, we have water in the north, in the south it's dry. Our main storage is Zambezi Dam. It's Kabora Bassa Dam in the Zambezi River, and it just stores 5% of the water for all the country. And with this dam, we do produce electricity for all the country. I said before, as we're affected by floods, droughts, and cyclones. In the place we did our job, our work, we have brackish groundwater, and in the coastal area we have seawater intrusion and arid zones in south. These are the main river basins we have in Mozambique. It's 13, but they are very dependent to the inland countries. We have too many waters and too less water. And we can't say that Mozambique it's a water scarce country. But we have that high dependence on international river basins. We don't have many structures that can store water. And as I said before, we have frequent floods and drought events. So we decide what to do to minimize or to solve all these problems. We see that we have a huge gap in terms of water resource management. And this contributes to impact negatively the food security, socio-economic development, and the general people quality life. So within our study, we saw that the impact of climate change on water resources is also an event to consider for this region within our study, which I will show you shortly the map of this area. We also conclude or had approved that we need to do more studies on hydrological extreme events such as severe droughts, landslide, floods, but also water contamination, which is aggravated by the salinization. In that place we did the study. We had the result of high level of salinity. I would like also to share with you that my country is ranked on top of the disaster risk index. It's 8 out of 170. So we're really on top of floods, droughts, and tropical cyclones, which has an impact on economy, problems on public health, and damage of infrastructure and environment. So the place that we did our study, it's more semi-arid region. And we look first to 3 regions on that area, which was Chigubu. I know that the names of the place will be very strange for you. It was Chigubu, Chikwalakwala, and Masanjane. But because of the all global situations and constraints we found out in the field, we decided just to do a study in Shigubu. And we thought this is representative. If you have a solution and want to implement that solution, it will be the same from Shikwala, Kwala, and Masanjan. So our main objective, were three of us. I had, I think about that. I asked some people to join me, and we draw the following objective. So our objective was to study the feasibility of how we can bring a solution for these boreholes and holes, because it's not too much water. So it's small amount of water. Where could we find appropriate equipment or machinery to provide potable water to this community? So we mapped the region, the three regions, but we did a study in Shigubu. We took samples to the laboratory to characterize this water. We compared these results with the WHO standards and the country standards to see how far or how close we were. And then we start to draw the technology to treat the water for these communities. And where to go back first, discuss with the community, validate this work we did with the community, and then we could provide the technology. So I won't go through the methodologies, but I already summarized it. So the area is, it's quite a belt area. You can look to this, it's look like a belt from very south of Mozambique to almost the very south a medium region of the country. So the total area we took for the study was not big area, but the majority of inhabitants of this area were there. Maybe because it was a small ponds or a small sources of water in that region. And it was evident that the place was very hot, no vegetation, and so it was allowing all conditions for diseases and malaria, diarrhea, and all these sorts of public health issues. So I want to share with you the places. You can see the place on top. It's very dry, and all these tools that should have water. There is no water. If you see the position, the gallons are put it, and you see that people are sharing the same place with animals because they're also trying to get water. In that image, you can see children and women. Women are always the ones who will spend all day looking for water, and they took children. And what was said here, it's because children are not going to school. And here was really on the administrative center. So it was a little bit of water, and all people on the community was there to find at least 1 gallon of water for all week. This place, it was another place we did a sampling. You can see that the boreholes are not clean, are not healthy, are not properly constructed. and the community is sharing water with animals, with cattle. This water is contaminated by fecal coliforms, and they don't treat the water, they just take the water for drinking like it is. We found another interesting place where we did the sampling, where the walls were protected, and the difference we find from this place to other place is that in that community, people had much more resource, like they had money, they could build a protected wall. But a bad thing was happening here. The ones with resource, they were locking. All these places were locking. So people still go to not protected places to find water. What we found with our water characterization, I will share more the chlorine and hardness, the chemical parameters of the water. pH, as you see, it's not normal. It's up from to 7 or 6.5 to 7. It's up, but this was not a problem at the beginning. But when we go to conductivity, as you see, it's so high. So this was the first sign. This water was not healthy, was not clean. It has a lot of salinity to rise to that levels of conductivity. And then we go to chlorine. Because water was saline, we're expecting really that chlorine was very high. The WHO standards, the maximum limit is 250. And the country is following that WHO standards. And as you see, we had sometimes 100 times more than the WHO standard. Either from walls or from boreholes were the same situation. We checked the hardness, and we had the same. We have 5 milligrams per liter has a standard, and you can see we go to 5,000. Another important parameter is nitrate. It's almost too low, but we conclude that maybe because a lot of organic material was there, so nitrates was low. But when it comes to another one, bad, which is nitrate, we see, we didn't know how to interpret these results. We expect more, and we had less. And it was what we were expecting for ammonia because of animals, fecal coliforms, and other bacteria. From sodium, we're expecting, because of chlorine, we're expecting so high results, and we had it from the standard to WHO standards and the country standard. So what we conclude with this? In fact, we want to work with the community to provide a solution. But to provide this solution, we had to do a study to characterize that water and that place. And the 6 areas where we went to do the sampling, we found out that there was very high levels of water shortage due to long period of absence of precipitation. When we interview people in the community, they are almost 8 to 10 years without any rain or any precipitation. Another big conclusion we had, according to the results of the study, it's all this area that are consuming water which is out of accepted limits. So we can say there is no water for those people. So all wells and boreholes present very high concentration of salts based on the presence of chlorines and carbonates in high quantities. We did present the bacteriological side of these studies because we feel that it won't be, it will have a very negative impact to the community and to the people who want to visit that place or do any job in that place. So at the end of the day, I feel myself that I really helped the people of this community. We approach institution that could support us to provide equipment or any type of material that could at least treat that water. And in January, we finished our desalination, two desalination stations. There are small ones where we built the borehole, two boreholes, very deep ones. It's 150 meters deep. And when we established that small desalination system, and people now are having at least a better quality of water in that region. I didn't bring those images of the desalination station and the time where we were building the boreholes, but I'm sure in the future opportunities, I will show you, and it makes me really to grow exponentially. Thank you, Dr. Franklin, and thank you, Dr. Lambert, to give me this opportunity to share my experience with you. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Rhoda, for your presentation. I took the time to write a few notes as I was trying to understand exactly what the water situation is in Mozambique. I don't know, you may remove the presentation, you may stop sharing it so that I can see if there are the hands up ready to ask questions or make comments. You may stop the presentation. The same link. Okay, there we are. Thank you very much.
Well,
there is one aspect of the presentation which was not quite clear to me, although the value, the overall value of the presentation is extremely high, and I commend you for the efforts you put forth to put everything together in this presentation. Thank you very, very much, Rhoda. I don't know if I understand very well what you wrote. You said the quality of water in the wells and the boreholes is above acceptable limits. Can you elaborate a little bit further if there is anything that I miss in that statement?
Yes, Dr. Franklin. What I meant by it, for instance, for nitrates, you have the limit of 50 milligrams per liter.
Mm-hmm.
But both in boreholes on wells, we had like 500 milligrams per liter. So this is too much for what is established by WHO and by the country, because the country is following the WHO standards.
So what is the quality of the water there in those wells and boreholes?
The quality, if I would say, this water has good quality in terms of nitrate, it should be less than 50 milligrams per liter. When it's 50, we still accept it because it's maximal limit. But if it's more than 50, it's not good quality. And in that case, it was too much, 500. It is not acceptable.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you were referring to one of those 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations when you said you referred to the safe and affordable water goals for 2030, but at the same time, you said 1 out of 4 people will be deprived of quality water in 2050. So how do we reconcile the two things? The ideal of getting clean water for everybody according to the United Nations Sustainable Goals for 2030. We're talking about one of those goals in there, in that chart. But you said that regardless of what happens in 2030, when it comes to acceptable water, quality water for the people of Namibia, and but you're saying that 1 out of 4 people will not have water in 2050, which means that's 20 years later. What do you mean? How do you reconcile it? Does that mean the United Nations Sustainable Goal of clean sanitation water in 2030 is not going to be reached, or the situation is going to get worse 20 years later in 2050? Please shed some light on this topic for me.
Thank you, Dr. Franklin. That's a quite complex question, but according to what we are doing, we have 2 situations. We have urban water and rural water. In that case, yeah, in that case, we were working in rural area. And with this type of infrastructure in the rural area, we are, let's say we are doing a modeling of the growth population, the growth infrastructure, and it's clear that in 2030 we want to reach that millennium goal. It's clear for us who are in the rural areas, almost in the rain season and in the dry season, and when you go to Shigubu, and people are saying for more than 4 or 8 years it's not raining. They don't have the water in a small ponds, in a small natural water in the environment. And if you have a government or anyone who is in charge to provide infrastructures to those places, and it's not going there for 8 years, for 10 years, doctor, I'm doubting. I'm not sure if we're going to reach this goal.
I get your point. But on a parallel topic, you mentioned also low-cost treatment of water treatment technologies. Is the government getting involved, or how are you going to get those low-cost water treatment technologies for the population of Namibia?
Of Mozambique, doctor.
I'm so sorry. In Namibia, that was Dr. Sarai. I'm sorry.
It's okay, doctor. Anyway, we are searching for low-cost technologies. We are trying to do what other countries, such as India, South Asia countries are doing with low-cost technologies. So this is not a government initiative. It's a very small group. And we went there, and there's nothing that is government. So it's locally, it's individual and some collective initiatives.
Okay.
So from what we're doing, we build that idea that we want to get there.
In one of those pictures that you shared with us, I saw a well. How would you rate the quality of water from that well?
Doctor, it's very hard to answer that. But
okay.
I wouldn't drink that water. I would say that.
Mm.
I wouldn't drink
that. That picture is in the city or in rural area?
It's in a rural area. In the city, the water provision it's much better than rural.
So what happens to that water from that picture? I'm a little curious. You said you won't drink it.
Because, Doctor, I'm so sorry. This
no, water, that's okay. We are just, brainstorming the topic.
Yeah, this water doesn't have any standards to be potable water.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, that's what I meant.
You can see,
yes.
but remember that the first physical parameter we tested was turbidity, and it's a very high turbidity, very high salinity. It has fecal coliforms because of the cattle, and it has very high salinity, little bit of nitrates and nitrates, but anyway, all things that makes the water not drinkable, it's there.
And what do they do with that water?
What they do everything, Doctor. Okay. They do everything with that water. Okay.
But I think that you are doing a great service, really, of writing up a project like that, looking into possibilities of providing people from Mozambique with clean water. And I can only wish that the implementation be successful. And, very soon that people can take full advantage of the result, the outcome of your research project on the feasibility for the adaptation of low-cost desalination technologies in Mozambique. Now let's go to the questions. We do have some time. This is the last presentation for today for this symposium in English. We're gonna have some more this afternoon. I mean, it's not gonna be necessarily afternoon, but after 12 time of what they call the Eastern Standard Time, United States, after 12, which is suddenly a 6-hour difference. That's 6 o'clock in some countries in Africa. It's just about 6 a.m. right now in Honolulu, Hawaii, where our headquarters are located. So it's not vary. So I'm sorry for saying afternoon and so forth and so on. But later on, we're gonna have some more presentations in Spanish. This one is the last one with Rhoda Nuvunga, Luis from Mozambique. This is a time, ladies and gentlemen, to ask pertinent questions or to make comments about Rhoda's presentation. I see Maxima's hand up. The floor is yours, Maxima, if nobody else wants to jump in and ask questions or make comments. Maxima.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you, Rhoda, for a wonderful presentation. Quite intense with beautiful pictures. I love pictures. I grew up in a village like that, so I understand exactly what you're talking about. My concern is Mozambique most of the time suffers natural disasters like flooding, etc. Now, I know that even today, according to your presentation, people in rural areas still consume water from the wells. Now, what happens during such, when natural disasters strike? How do you deal with waterborne diseases? Because now those villages will be largely affected. And how does the Department of Health and the Department of Water Affairs and local governments come together to deal with this? Because one other issue is, I know that people can even slip and fall into the wells. It has happened before. I know it is still happening. So how does your government deal with that?
Thank you very much, Mazima, for your questions. And question and comments at the same time. Floodings, we are facing the last flooding now with the Gombe cyclone. So many areas around Maputo, even today when I was driving from home to the office, I'm living about 40 kilometers from Maputo city. So I drive all along way the coast, and I can see all this coastal area, it's flooded. And you see that the water is half of the height of latrine, the house, and you still see kids and ladies around those places. So I think we need a very strong health policies. But first, before the health policies, we need to have policies for urban establishment. People, they're just building where they want to build. They're building where is mangrove. They're building in the wetlands. They just build what they want to build. So I see that this is the first weakness. We need to have policies for that. We need to have a very strong policies in public health, and not just policies, action as well. We need to have those kids to be vaccinated, to take the antiparasitoids medicines in terms of mandatory, not because I want to take my kid. Yeah. And secondly, I really think that we need to have a very good coordination between the health and the water department, water supply department. They're working in very opposite ways. The water, they just want to put the pipes and put the water, and at the end of month check the taxes and what. But there is no public sources for water. People have very low incomes. They can't pipe the water for their homes. So they need to go to somewhere which is public water supply, where they're going to pay, but not the same I'm paying in my house or in someone's very well-established house. We also need to, in terms of institutional coordination, when we talk about floods, we have a specific institute which deals with extreme events. But extreme events affect everyone, affect all institutions. So we need to have a good coordination between this. We have a very little capacity to store water. It's Kabora Bassa Dam, 5% of the water. So all water, it comes to the ocean. So after flood, we'll have a drought. After drought, we'll have a flood. So we need to sit down, plan, and because we know, we do have a techniques. All of us will know what is desalination, water storage, water treatment. So the techniques are there. We don't need to invent anything. We just need to plan it very well and to work in a very well coordinated manner as institutions.
Yeah, water reticulation.
And you will have those, now it's north of Mozambique. All people from rural area, it's migrating to the city because of the war situation. We had it in Maputo. That's why Maputo had that disorganized structure. So we still have a lot to do. We still have a lot to do. It's not just for people like Rhoda and friends. We go to Shigugu and we won't solve the things when we do, we won't solve the problems when we do in such individual way of dealing with a very strong conditions and situations. So I don't know if I really brought all the issues you want to share with me.
Thank you for your response, Rhoda. Thank you for your new question, Maxima. And we do have some more questions and comments. And we're gonna now go to Tangavel Kopen. Welcome.
Sorry,
Thank
Dr.
you, Dr. Wasim.
So, sorry, before you proceed, Dr. Falcon, Dr. Lambert,
Yes.
I'm going to leave now. I'm no longer going to be active. Sorry, this was very informative. I'm just going to pick up my baby from school. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
it's been a real pleasure, Maxima. Tangavel, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Walsin. Thank you, Rhoda, for your nice presentation. Just I want to know, can you please tell me why rainfall in Mozambique is heavy along the coast and decreases from north to south?
The rainfall in me.
Yeah, why is rainfall is heavy along the coast and decreases from north to south?
So, Dr. Franklin, I didn't get the question. Can you help me, please?
Sorry.
Why rainfall in Mozambique is heavy along the coast?
Ah, okay.
And decreases from north to south.
We are tropical country. We have these two seasons. We have one wet season and a dry season. And according to our geographical location, and we are very close to Madagascar and to Mauritius, according to our geographical location, we are hit by heat clouds in the north, which makes the country very humid in the north and very dry in the south. And the landscape as well. If you see the north, it's very irregular and we have mountains in the north and it's very flat in the south. So I'm not geographic people, but I can explain it that way.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Rhoda. I hope you are satisfied, Tangavel, as to why rainfalls are heavy on the coast, and it's a different ball game up north in Mozambique. So, any other question from anybody else? Questions or comments? Thank you again. But let me come up with a question of my own, Roda Nuvunga. I'm thinking about what could eventually be done to resolve that issue. We're talking about water, which is the most precious drink and there is no way people can avoid consuming water. What do you see happening, let's say, 10 years from now? This time we're not thinking necessarily about the sustainable goal of clean water from the United Nations, but in terms of what is being done right now within Mozambique, 10 years from now, if there is no improvement, pretty much within the concept of personal exponential growth, if nothing happens, then disaster may strike. And this time we're not talking necessarily about natural disaster. It is something that is within the ability of humans to get to the bottom of it. So what do you see, Rhoda, 10 years from now, water in Mozambique?
What I see is an improvement. Mm-hmm. We improved in terms of integrated water research management, in terms of policies, establishment, in terms of infrastructure, I would say. But I still feel that in terms of the same work we're doing in the cities, we should be doing in the rural areas. And the privilege is for the cities and the urban area around the cities. To the rural areas, I think we still need to do a lot. And in 10 years, I would say to the rural areas, we did the policies. We did the strategic plans, but the actions are still very incipient.
Okay. Now, I know it's a different society, of course, a different type of country, but the technology certainly is available to everybody. Of course, money and cost budgets are also involved. I'm thinking, for example, of the United States military, particularly the Navy. These people are on the ocean and they don't get on land unless necessary. They can be there a year, 2 years and never go to the land. And they're using the salty water of the ocean. And what they do, they have the technology which allows them to treat that water, and the type of water they get from that type of treatment is better than any other water that you can find anywhere else, even within this country, the United States. So what are the possibilities, the expectations, or anything that could be eventually possible, regardless of what happens to the wells, to the climate, and so forth and so on, and other natural disaster, drought and floods and so forth and so on. What is the possibility of using the water from the ocean and distribute that to the entire population?
Mozambique, it has a long coast. Mm-hmm. And all this long coast, it's saline water. So it's plenty with water. And desalination should be one of priorities in Mozambique. And we had a project, and it's still ongoing, with a particular institution in Israel, and we went to visit Israel to see, because they don't have a water apart of saline water. And we learned from them that yes, it's possible to have water for agriculture, water for community drinking, and for everything from the sea. The constraint here was how much should we invest in terms of financial resources to have this water. And doctor, you know, when it gets to financial, it takes too long. We can sit down, draw, discuss, build up a very efficient, doable project in terms of scientific project. But when it goes to financial, we really need to prove, to demonstrate, and to show them that you as government, you will have more profit on doing this rather than doing this. So we are still struggling. We are still struggling, and we know that the source is there. And it's free. The source is free.
That's true, yeah.
So we just need to invest, and we just need to find effective and appropriate policies, as I said before, to take this project in a positive way.
My new question might be some type of nonsense, but I'm not gonna hesitate to ask anyway. What is that you can have or locate or engineer in terms of your personal influence onto people in a position of power to act, do something, depending on their resources, budget, and so forth and so on? What is it that you can personally do to bring your input into a solution to that water problem in Mozambique? Rhoda?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Personally, I've learned for all this. I've been working with government for 35 years now. And for my personal experience, to convince those government staff or somewhere in a very high position, it's first to do something, and to do something positive, and then show him, and then convince him that I did in a 10%. So shall we do it 100%? I did it in it's a small piece, but the big one, it's similar. So should you help me to do it? So that's why I thought doing those two small desalination station in Shibugu, it's a positive, yes, to show them that, yes, we can do it, it's possible.
Okay. All right, I certainly congratulate you for having been on the forefront of government action, and eventually from your input, they will find some solution to that water issue in Mozambique. I haven't heard from our other participants. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last presentation in English for the Symposium of Atlantic International University, and you are missing out on an opportunity to participate, to bring your input, to have the community hear your voice. So the floor is yours. Please just raise your hand, and you will be allowed to make your comments or to ask your questions. We are waiting for that participation of yours.
Dr. Franklin, allow me to, just to clarify a little thing. I'm not water people. I do work with water, but I'm food science people.
No, actually, I don't understand your position. I mean, I didn't know exactly what you do in the government of Namibia, but when you mentioned that you've been in such epicenters of governmental action, so I assume that you know, you might be acquainted with X, Y, or Z. within the community of governments and be able to influence these people into doing something, you know, a legislator and some other people from the government, when they hear voices of authority, most of the time, regardless of the country, they do act because it is for the good of the whole country, the good of the community, and whatever resources are available on their end, they never hesitate to act. We hear voices like yours. So that was the meaning of my question. Any other hand, any other question from anybody, or maybe I should start calling names? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I repeat that this is the last opportunity. As a matter of fact, we don't even have too many more opportunities. The symposium in English, English version of it is ending in about 6-7 minutes. So it's a good time, a good opportunity for you to grab and ask questions, make comments of any type. Kafuta Kiala, the floor is yours now. Maybe the last participant to get involved.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yes, we've heard of the challenges being faced in Mozambique.
Okay.
My question to the presenter is, she has the initiative to compare those challenges with the other African countries that are sharing the borders, say land with the oceans and the seas, as compared to more civilized countries like in Europe, America, and Asia, in addressing those challenges they have in Mozambique.
Thank you, Kafuta. You have a take on this topic, Rhoda?
If I understood, he wants to know if we compare what we did with our
yes,
neighbors.
Usually comparing and contrasting is a good way of going about solving problems, because the way the situation may be evolving in Mozambique may be very, very similar to the same situation in Cameroon or in Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, and so forth and so on. So his question was whether you have had any opportunity to do that compare and contrast experiment, and if you have somehow a way to, let's say, share with those other countries at the border, either land border or border on the ocean and so forth and so on. Have you done something to sort of internationalize a project to resolve what's going on right now with the water issue in Mozambique?
Yes, Doctor, we have done it. And in the Southern African region, we did invite a group of researchers in South Africa that are doing a water and sanitation projects in the community, and we really learned with them how to establish a wash system in the community to allow the community to wash their clothes, to do the washing, take baths, and take shower, and all activities that involve water. We are still having it in the paper. We are discussing it. As I said before, we don't have anyone who will support us in terms of financial resources. We are a group of friends, and we are trying to do it by our own resources. We did another what I can say, but we traveled to to, I forgot the name of the province, in Iguazu, Brazil. It's when we have those water from Iguazu. And because the language is the same with us, and the problem seems it's the same with us, we learn a lot with Brazilians. We know that we still have to share our experience with Malawi, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and all countries in Southern Africa. We will do it, but we are doing step by step because we don't have external resources. We want to do it by ourselves. We don't want to ask anyone to help. So let's see how strong we are to have it done.
All right, thank you very, very much, Rhoda Nuvunga Luis, our last presenter, and that was the last note, ladies and gentlemen, cherished participants to this new symposium of Atlantic International University, and that was again the last note for this session. We very, very highly appreciate your attendance, your participation, even those of you who have not provided any input, but your attendance itself is a piece of gold for the entire family of Atlantic International University. We highly value that attendance, and we want to thank each and every one of you. Remember, when it comes to exponential growth on the personal basis, this is every moment activity, every moment and endeavor through all the presentation that we've had with Temba Gola from South Africa, Dr. Sarai from Namibia, Anne Lengat from Kenya, and Roda Nuvunga Luis from Mozambique. We do understand that the goal is for each of us to develop some type of mindset towards exponential growth. It's not about adding little chunks or pieces here and there, but it's about diving full force into whatever activity you are engaged in or involved in, so that you use the multiplication factor, regardless of obstacles or hardships that may be challenging your way. If you go that way, you certainly will be successful in the long run. Once again, I thank you on behalf of the whole Atlantic International University for your attendance. We have to close this session because in a few seconds, not minutes, seconds, we're gonna have to open up the second slot for this event, which is gonna be the symposium in Spanish. But at this time, again, I want to thank you very, very, very much for being with us. And we're gonna have the last word before we wrap this up right now with Dr. Edward Lambert. It's been a real pleasure. Love to each and every one of you. It's been a real pleasure, a big delight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.